Frances Haugen, welcome to The Daily Show.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Your name isn't as big as the story that you really, leaked to the world. You know, a lot of people, you say Frances Haugen, they'll be like, who is that? But then if you say to people, hey, remember how we all learned that Facebook and what social media is doing is essentially destroying teenagers' brains and it's harming all of us? Yeah, that report happened because of you. So let's start with the question of why. You've worked for Google, you've worked for Pinterest, you've worked for Yelp, and yet you blew the whistle on Facebook. Why did you feel like, oh, this is something I can't sit on?
So when I joined Facebook, I thought I was going to work on misinformation in the United States. And I was surprised. And I actually was charged with working on information only outside the United States.
Okay.
And like many people and many technologists, I had never really focused on Facebook's impact internationally. And very rapidly, I realized kind of the horrifying magnitude of the danger that we were facing. That Facebook's algorithms give the most reach to the most extreme and divisive ideas. And that process is destabilizing some of the most fragile places in the world, like Ethiopia or what happened in Myanmar.
You see, when you say that, there are some people who will accept it immediately. And then there are some people who will be like, that's not true at all. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who will say, but I mean, aren't there always going to be extreme people in the world? You know, there's always somebody saying something. You know, Facebook themselves say, they go like, hey, we're not part of the problem. We're merely a platform that people put their views on. We are not part of the problem. And you disagree with that.
So let's imagine you had a relative who had particularly extreme ideas. You know, we often say like the crazy uncle.
Right.
Some of us have those. That person, if we're talking to them one-on-one or we're talking to them at a family gathering, that scale allows for resolution of ideas.
Okay.
What's happening on Facebook right now is ideas that are the most able to elicit a reaction and the shortest path to a click is anger. Those get the most reach. And ideas that are more moderate or that try to bring us into synthesis or to help us find a middle path, those aren't as likely to elicit a comment from you or elicit a like.
Right.
And so Facebook doesn't get as much distribution.
So Facebook is essentially propelling certain ideas out there. So they may say we're the platform, but really what they're also doing is they're advocating for certain viewpoints because they push those out because those get people engaged and spinning in the cycle.
So I think it's a thing where it's not they sit out and go, how can we have more extreme ideas? I don't think that's what they're trying to do. But they do know that there are lots of solutions that are not about censorship. It's not about picking good or bad ideas or good or bad people. It's about how do we change the dynamics of these systems so that you could have good speech counter bad speech. How do we give those more of an equal say at the table?
You know, it's interesting that you lay it out like this because I remember talking to my friends about this saying, have we become angrier in the world? Have we become less able to have misunderstandings? Because I sit with my friends and I go like, I don't agree on so many things with my friends, but I don't remember a time when that meant that I couldn't be friends with them.
Yeah.
In the world of social media right now, it feels like if I disagree with you on this, I disagree with you on everything. It seems like Facebook goes, if you disagree on this, we're going to find more ways to find where you disagree or how to make you disagree.
Yeah, so some people have said this idea of like Facebook's always looking for fault lines. Right, so a high quality piece of content is one that gets lots of engagement. And it turns out an angry comment thread where, you know, it causes us to yell at each other, that is viewed as a higher quality piece of content. And so, during COVID, I've had friends who wrote very long, thoughtful pieces that went and digested lots of information. That's going to cause less knee-jerk reaction than something that really offends you.
So masks don't work. People are clicking on that. Here's the thing about masks we have to consider in our society. Boo, Facebook's not pushing that. So what's interesting, you know, in everything that you've done is, even though you're a whistleblower, even though you came out with this information, you've never said, I'm anti-Facebook. You've never said, shut Facebook down. You've never said, this thing needs to go away. What you're arguing for is we change our relationship with not just Facebook, but social media companies as a whole. Explain what that means.
So often when people talk about this idea of we need to change our relationship with social media, it's more about like, should we use our phones so much? But I'm encouraged to have a conversation about what's our relationship with companies, or what's companies' relationships with us.
Okay.
Facebook knows that they have a level of unaccountability that's very different than either Google or Apple or other big platforms, because in the case of Google, we can download their results and analyze them and see if there are biases. In the case of Apple, we can take apart the phones and put up YouTube videos saying Apple phones do or don't work the way they claim.
Huh.
But in the case of Facebook, researchers and activists have been telling Facebook, hey, we have found all these examples. We think there's a pattern here. We think there's too much human trafficking. We think kids are suffering.
Right.
And Facebook keeps coming back because they know no one can call them on it and saying, that's just anecdotal, that's not real.
But when you released the information, we realized it wasn't anecdotal, it was real because Facebook had
And
done
Facebook
the
knew about
research.
it. Yeah.
Right. You see, now this is interesting because this reminds me of the tobacco companies.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
reminds us of
Yeah.
the fossil fuel companies. They do the research, they find out something really bad, and then, I mean, obviously they go like, we're not going to put this out there, but we know. One of the biggest things that's really gotten people worried is how social media affects younger brains. I mean, it affects my brain. I don't consider myself younger anymore, but young people are like, it seems like at the highest risk.
Yeah, Facebook's internal research says that the highest rates of problematic use peak at age 14. So you're not allowed to be on the platform until you're 13. So I guess it takes a little bit of time to form that habit. But the largest fraction of any of those age cohorts they sampled, and they've done studies that have 100,000 people in them.
Okay.
These are not tiny studies. They find that the largest fraction say, I can't control my usage, and I know it's impacting my health, my employment, or my school, is at age 14. And so there's a real thing where young people have both, they're struggling with issues in their life.
Yes.
And they don't have the self-control yet. And they say this to researchers. They say, I know this is making me feel bad, and I can't stop. I fear I'll be ostracized if I leave. And those factors mean it's not easy for kids just to walk away.
It's also not easy for people to understand how to fix it. You have lawmakers now who are trying to figure this thing out. Silicon Valley is way ahead of them. Right, like way ahead of them. Lawmakers, you see these hearings, they'll be like, what if my Facebook is an Insta flap? They don't understand what's happening. So how do we begin creating a world where we're not destroying the companies, but we're regulating them the way they should be?
So the main thing I'm advocating for is around transparency, because one of the problems today is because Facebook is the only one that holds the cards. Like they can see whether or not they're holding a royal flush or not, what they claim. We need to move to a world where we have more access to data, and that can be aggregate data, it can be privacy sensitive data. It doesn't have to, expose people. It's a false choice of privacy versus transparency.
Right.
And once we have the ability to have conversations, we can stop talking about boogeyman social media.
I see.
And we can start having conversations on how do we solve these problems. I think what we need to do, and this is what I'm going to spend 2022 doing, is we need to start organizing people. Like I want to plant a youth-directed movement where we can begin putting pressure on Facebook to release this information. Because I don't think Facebook is just going to do it automatically out of the goodness of its heart. We have to force them to. And I think there's lots and lots of opportunities where we can begin putting pressure on them, either socially or financially.
As a user of social media, as a person who speaks to all my friends on social media, I have my enemies on social media, I appreciate this conversation because I think if we're not careful, we end up in a world where we're all fighting really just because an algorithm is trying to make us fight half of those fights. I've noticed, even with the show, if I say a thing on the show, this has been like the most interesting thing for me is, depending on what I say, Facebook sends that to different people. One time we had it on the show
That's
where...
a real thing.
One time we had it on the show where literally I'd laid out both arguments. I said, here's one way to see it, here's another way to see it. But then on Facebook, only one way went to each group. And I was fascinated by that because then people are like, why didn't you say the other way? I was like, but that's exactly what I said. They're like, oh, well, I didn't see that. And then you realize... So one of the things that happens is, so let's say you take a video clip. So let's say you have, out of any given one of your shows, people go and put on YouTube lots of different little chunks. People can reseed those onto Facebook over and over again, and they do. And each time that enters into Facebook, someone posts it to a group, someone does this, it enters into the network in a different way. And the algorithm begins picking up data on that. And it says, oh, interesting, like these kinds of people engage, these kinds don't. And so, and because it's entering from so many different points, it actually gets a chance to learn what kinds of people or communities it engages the most with. And so that echo chamber is real, like the algorithm pulls us towards homogeneity. It's almost like Facebook knows that you react most to your neighbor when they play loud music. There's no reaction from you when your neighbor's doing other things, but when your neighbor plays loud music, that's when you react.
Actually,
so then Facebook goes, I'm just gonna...
It's even worse than that, actually. So
how can it be worse?
So let's imagine there's music that you like, and there's music you don't like,
Oh, wow.
it actually knows you really don't like, I don't know, reggaeton or something.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that I think
Okay.
is really sad is one of the things that was in the documents is that people talk about, especially people from marginalized communities, that they will go and correct people who are spreading, racist, sexist, homophobic comments. And guess what? Now Facebook knows you engage with those keywords.
So they send you more
And
of
so they
that.
send more of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I didn't know they were doing that.
They don't do it on purpose. It's a side effect.
It's a side effect
It's a
of the way
side
the algorithm
effect.
works.
Yeah.
So the algorithm is designed to get as much engagement as possible. And then
Yeah.
engagement, unfortunately,
Yeah.
you're more likely, there's a car accident,
Yeah.
I'm going to engage.
Yeah. Yeah. Or more of if they had an option of showing you a stream of different things, they know you got a car accident, so they show you more of it.
Man,
Yeah.
this is hard because on the one hand I go like, well, I need to stop looking at car accidents, but the brain is the brain.
It's the brain. If all the AI is not intelligent, right? We like to say artificial intelligence.
Yes.
But people who actually study it call it machine learning because
Yes.
it's not intelligent. It's just a hill climber. It's optimizing. And think of all the different pieces of content you get exposed to. It's not trying to show you most extreme content. It happens to be to fulfill its goal function. It mindlessly pushes you towards it. And so this is about Facebook making choices to not fix it. That Facebook has lots and lots of options that don't deal with
They're
content.
letting the machine run wild.
They're letting the machine run wild.
Money.
Money.
That's what it is. Thank you so much for being
No,
here.
my
This has
pleasure.
really been enlightening. Good luck on the rest of your journey.
Thank you so much.
If you want to learn more about Frances's advocacy work, then you can go to franceshaugen.com.